Alrighty, we'll give people just a second to kind of come in. All right, welcome in everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm gonna pin our caption at the top real quick, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get started. All right, all right. Welcome in everyone. Tonight we will be having our guest speaker Kelly Garza from Steamy Chick. This masterclass this evening is titled Hot Mama Using Vaginal Steam to Decrease Maternal Mortality Risks. Just to give you guys a background on our guest speaker this evening, Kelly Garza has a master's degree in international development, graduating cum laude with a focus in nonprofit management and human rights. Kelly is the owner of Steamy Chick and the founder of Steam Hydrotherapy Institute. Through her company, she raises awareness on the benefits of pelvic steaming. She conducts research and trains practitioners. Keli is an author of Vaginal Steam World Map, Pelvic Steam Testimonial Database, Fourth Trimester Vaginal Steam Study, and Steamy Chick Log. Currently, she is working on a documentary film with the working title called Steam. Please help me welcome Miss Keli Garza. Sorry, Kelly Garza.
Cool. Thank you so much, Joy.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna let you have the floor, and then you can get started. But everybody says welcome in the comments.
Okay, cool. Hey, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. So, the National Black Doula Association, I have been part of for multiple years now. I think probably like 4 or 5 years. And I think when it comes to right now, there's been more awareness and media coverage of how of mortality, especially in the United States, especially in our community, for Black and Brown and Indigenous Latina women. It is our risk of mortality is a lot higher. And so one of the things is that we know about steaming. A lot of us do. Let me know if y'all are steamers, if you guys are yoni steaming or vaginal steaming, if you tried it out, if you do it regularly, you guys can talk about that in the comments. But one of the things is that this is steaming can be an incredible tool to be able to prevent risks of mortality. So I'm a little bit of a nerd. When I started to hear about the mortality risks and the heightened risks that Black women have, I wanted to learn like exactly how women are dying and why they are dying. And the more I learned about it, the more I was like, oh my gosh, steaming helps to prevent these risks. And so that's what this talk is about today. Out of I have a research project called the Vaginal Steam World Map, where I look at records of vaginal steaming around the world, like ancient records of steaming. And what I noticed is that, a couple of things. Number one, steaming is practiced on every continent, every single continent. If you go back far enough, steaming was a practice. And steaming is used for different things. Sometimes it's used for period pain, fertility. And sometimes it's used for labor, for labor pain. But the most common use of it, and the thing that it is used for everywhere that it has in common, is that it's used for postpartum recovery. It's used after birth. And so that is like the most common usage of steaming worldwide, is for after birth recovery, for postpartum. So when I was looking at the risks and the reasons why women die during childbirth, and I was seeing how and thinking about how steaming impacts each one of those or helps to decrease, the impact of each one of those. I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder steaming is universal after giving birth. Like it's I think an incredible tool that helps to keep new mothers safe. Okay. And so anyway, so that's what I'm going to go over in this talk. I found a study called The Global Causes of Maternal Death, a World Health Organization systematic analysis. It was published in 2014. And the study is relevant because up until this time, maternal deaths weren't even really being investigated or counted. And so this study was an attempt to even figure out how many women were dying and why, and to look at the different causes. And so the study looked at maternal deaths that happened between 2003 to 2012. And there's a lot of, information about this study, and you guys should, can look it up to look at all the details. But like one of the statistics is that basically in 2010, there was a total of 287,000 deaths worldwide. So 287,000 deaths. The majority of these were preventable and direct causes, not indirect causes. So for example, if somebody got into a car accident, that would have been dismissed as an indirect cause. The majority of these were obstetric reasons. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, there were 6 causes of death, of maternal deaths. And so I'm going to go over each one and talk about steaming related to that. Okay. All right. So the first most common cause of death, I don't know if anybody knows what it is hemorrhaging. So 27% of all the maternal deaths occurred because of hemorrhaging. So hemorrhaging is really heavy bleeding, like a river of blood, coming out. So 27%, over a quarter of all maternal deaths happen because of hemorrhaging. Okay. So the thing about hemorrhaging is that it happens because of retained birth matter. So for example, you give birth, somebody gives birth to the baby, and then there is the placenta needs to come out. And then there's also more stuff that needs to come out. And that is all called lochia, the discharge that's coming out after somebody gives birth. Okay. So if there's any retained pregnancy matter, placenta, or even lochia, it can cause hemorrhaging. Okay. And this is true after giving birth as well as after a miscarriage or abortion. Okay. So steaming related to hemorrhaging. I do believe that steaming helps to prevent hemorrhaging. And the reason why is because of the 4th trimester vaginal steam study. In 2017, I conducted a study called the 4th trimester vaginal steam study. And we looked at a group of people who were steaming postpartum versus not steaming postpartum. And the steam group did steaming for 5 days in a row, from day 4 to day 9 postpartum. And then the non-steam group didn't do any steaming. So we looked at both groups on day 4 and day 9, and we're able to compare. And then we looked at both of the groups again at 6 weeks. And our steam group, by day 9, was at their final stage of lochia release. There's different stages of it. And so they had very little bleeding by day 9. Our non-steam group, they were still at their first stage of expelling all the lochia by day 9. And even at 6 weeks, some of them still had lochia. Our non-steam group, by 6 weeks, none of them had any lochia. Now, this is significant because when we're looking at maternal deaths, it's not just during the actual delivery of the baby. It's also within the month after, because complications can occur. And one of the main complications that can occur is if there's retained placenta or birth matter, somebody can start hemorrhaging at any time. And so that's a risk. So the reason why I think steaming helps to decrease this risk, of course, during the delivery, there's nothing really, I don't believe that it can help if the hemorrhaging happens during the delivery. But postpartum, when somebody steams, then they get all of the lochia out faster. They get all of the retained matter. And there are people who steam who are like, oh my gosh, I thought, pieces of my placenta are coming out, clients that I've worked with, and they have, they thought everything came out, and when they steam, major things come out at that time. And that's something that's common with steam users. If you ask people who've steamed postpartum, that's a common occurrence, is that they steam and then all of a sudden all this stuff comes out that they didn't know was still in there. Okay, so that is so what we were able to see when doing a study was that the steam users were much better off than the non-steam users as far as being able to clean out the uterus, because that's ultimately what's going on, is that there has to be a complete uterine cleanse after giving birth. So there was also another study done in India. I forget the year of this study, but the study in India did the same thing. They were looking at women who were using steaming postpartum versus not steaming postpartum. And that was another one of the conclusions that they had, was that the steam users had a much quicker uterine cleanse, and therefore their uterus went back in, like it goes back down to size, like the stomach gets flatter a lot quicker because of the better cleanse and the faster cleanse that the steam users get compared to the non-steam users. All of that helps to decrease risk of mortality, especially the risk that happens after giving birth, after somebody's home, that when they're trying to clear everything out, that there could be the risk of heavy bleeding or hemorrhaging at that time. Okay, so we made it through number one. Let me know if you guys have any questions about that. So the second largest cause of maternal deaths was heart stroke. So heart stroke, if you guys have ever heard of eclampsia, this is what is related to eclampsia. And then you might have heard of preeclampsia, which means that somebody's getting at risk of eclampsia, which means that they're getting risk of their heart stroking out and then them actually dying because of it. Okay. So essentially it's heart failure. Okay. So eclampsia or heart stroke is responsible for 14% of maternal deaths. And the indicator that that doctors use, or that your medical care providers use, is blood pressure. So that's why blood pressure is monitored during pregnancy, during delivery, and actually, I don't think blood pressure is monitored enough postpartum, and I think that is why there are, that's something that causes people to be at risk. But blood pressure is a sign that ultimately the heart is having difficulty. And so when somebody has really high blood pressure, they're diagnosed with preeclampsia, and they're monitored, because the risk is that they don't want to get to the point of eclampsia and these heart strokes, which can be fatal. Okay. So I'm going to bring up the 4th trimester vaginal steam study again. It was really interesting because I am not a medical care provider, and I've never taken anybody's blood pressure. I've been steaming all these years, and I've never even thought about how it impacts blood pressure. And so it was one of the findings of the study that I was actually pretty surprised and shocked by. Or I was just really pleasantly surprised, that we were able to get this result, which was that we had our steam group and our non-steam group. Okay. Our steam group, for whatever reason, so we took everybody's blood pressure, or our researcher did. And for whatever reason, they had a higher average blood pressure to start off with than our non-steam group. Their blood pressure was a little bit lower than the steam group, just on average, starting out by chance. And after 5 days of steaming, our steam group's blood pressure had come down to normal. Okay, so everybody's blood pressure is higher after they give birth, and then it needs to come down. So our entire steam group's blood pressure had come down to normal and healthy after 5 days of steaming. Our non-steam group, their blood pressure went from high to higher on day 9 when we took their blood pressure. So their blood pressure was going up they were more at risk of preeclampsia. Their heart was more in distress than on day 4 postpartum, because we took their blood pressure on day 4 and day 9. So then we took their blood pressure again at 6 weeks. And finally, at 6 weeks, their blood pressure had come down. Our steam group, their blood pressure already came down after steaming, after 5 days of steaming on day 9. So again, when we're looking at like these statistics from the World Health Organization, they were looking at during childbirth, mortality that happened during childbirth, and I believe that they did the study 16 days after. So our steamers, their blood pressure came down. They were no longer at risk of heart issues, or they were less at risk of heart issues because their blood pressure had come down by day 9. Our non-steam group, by day 9, their blood pressure was higher. So they were more at risk of, their heart was more, in distress. So they were more at risk. So steaming seemed to protect steaming seemed to protect our new moms, from risk of heart stroke, which was responsible for 14% of all deaths. Joy, do you have a question?
Yeah. So we have a question, and they're wondering what herbs were you guys using in that blend of, steam and things like that, for those women to bring their blood pressure down, because they want to know, like, what can they, recommend to their clients and things like that when it comes to steaming.
Yeah. So this talk won't be comprehensive. You won't be able to walk out of this talk and go to your client and go steam them.
Right.
Now, I have a certification for that. It's quick and easy. It's online, and that goes over all of the herbs and everything. But I'm going to answer the question as far as to what herbs were used during this study. But the answer is ultimately different herbs can be used and no herbs can be used. For example, when I did my first round of postpartum steaming with my first baby, I didn't use herbs because I didn't know about herbs at that time. So you can just steam with water alone. And I think that's, what I want for you guys to know. The next thing is every single place that you go, remember, steaming is something done in every single, like all over the entire world and every continent. There's different herbs everywhere. So, I know some people probably from a Haitian background, you'll have the herbs that you use. People from a Ghanaian background, steaming is still alive and well, know what herbs to use. The same in Suriname. Now, if you don't know what herbs to use, even if you're an herbalist, it's worth knowing like what kinds of herbs you're using at different times. So what I tried to do early on was figure out how to just make one herb formula that works for everybody, but that doesn't work. So for example, when somebody does not have any bleeding and they need to, like for somebody who doesn't have periods, for example, and their periods are absent and they don't know why, you want to give them herbs that stimulate bleeding and that can help to bring on the onset of bleeding. Versus somebody who bleeds a lot and they bleed every day. They have spotting every single day. There are people like that. We need herbs that stop their bleeding. So in that way, I can't just say, which herbs, and those apply to everybody. It's really important to know who you're giving the herbs, what menstrual cycle type they have or what symptoms they're having, and then that they get the herbs that match the property, the medicinal property that they're in need of. For example, if somebody has a bacterial infection, then they could use antibiotic herbs. If somebody's got a viral infection, then you would use viral herbs, so antiviral herbs. But no matter what herbs you can use for those things, it's really important to overall look at what it's going to do to their bleeding pattern, And so women just tend to be a little bit complex, and that's how it is. So during the postpartum, the 4th trimester vaginal steam study, we used an herbal blend that I make, or that I used to make for my company, the Steamy Chick Cleansing Herb Formula. And so those of you that know me know that herbal blend and have used that. And it has, I think, like 12 different herbs in that blend. One of the herbs is roses. Another one of the herbs is chamomile. And those are herbs that are really, they're lovely to steam with because you get to also smell you get to smell them. So I love like flowers. Flowers are always like my go-to.
I love that. We have one more question. And now they're asking, what is the proper way to set up a steaming seat? So I know, some people go to different practitioners. Some different practitioners have a seat that themselves that they use, but they want to know, what's the proper way to
Yeah,
do
you
that.
can use a steam sauna. You can use like a medical geriatric chair. You can kneel over a pot and put some towels or some blankets around it so that you don't burn your thighs on either side. There's different ways to do it. And so again, that's something that if you're going to be doing it for a client, it is important to have safety, to just have certain safety measures and to have an intake form that you do with the client to make sure that you're getting them the right herbs. And then also another thing to note is that people are contraindicated. There are contraindications for steaming. So it's contraindicated when people have, for example, when they have like a burning, like if they have an infection and it's like they have a burning sensation, it's contraindicated during pregnancy, it's contraindicated during somebody's period. And it's really important, and that's not all, and it's really important to know what those contraindications are. And then also the setup varies. So there are certain people who are sensitive to steam and they can only take no heater setup, and they can only steam for, and then also the duration is important. Some people can only steam for 10 minutes. If they steam any longer, they'll have negative side effects, or their chance of negative side effects go up. And then there's other people that they could steam for 30 minutes, and they can use the burner. So at the like spas, like if you go to a Korean spa and do steaming, they do a pretty hot steaming, and they'll have like an electric burner and then a pot and then a chair that you sit over, or a steam box. That doesn't work for everybody. There are people that steam setup there is too hot, and steaming that long can cause negative side effects. So that's what we always want to, like, we don't want people to get herpes outbreaks and there's different things that can happen. It can change people's cycles for the worse. It can bring the onset of bleeding. There's different things that can happen. So I really want to stress that this talk I do have an introductory talk, and y'all can invite me back about, vaginal steaming 101. And I give the specifics of how to do an at-home setup steam for yourself, how to get started with that. But in general, if you want to do this for your clients, it's really important to get certified. Okay. And so you guys can go to steamychick.institute to check out the certification program. I have a level 1, very basic certification that just goes over all the safety stuff and gives you the intake form and puts you, on the, where you're just knowledgeable about the practice and can do it, confidently with clients. And so I recommend that, especially for all doulas and birth workers. And honestly, doulas and birth worker and midwives are, there's a lot of doulas and midwives who are steam practitioners, and there's still not enough. Like, this is something that I think that every doula and midwife should have, like, in their tool bag.
Yeah, that's amazing. So that's all the questions we have for now, but we did go ahead and link your website for the Steamy Chick Institute in the comments.
Okay, cool. And you guys, I do have a coupon for you. So in case anybody's going over there right now, I have a 50% off discount for anybody who's here. So type in doula, all capital letters. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank
okay.
you.
But I still, no matter, you can learn about steaming. And in fact, there's other, you can learn about steaming. You can go to spas and you can steam. And that's one thing. But the reason why I'm doing this talk is because there are very few of us, I think, that understand how steaming can help impact or decrease risk of maternal mortality. So I'm going to get into that more. Also, I think it is useful for us to really understand what's causing people to die. That way we can pay attention to those things. So the one that I was talking about was heart stroke, eclampsia, and the high blood pressure. And so the results that we had in the 4th trimester vaginal steam study was that our steam group, that their blood pressure came down. It came down quickly, and it came down to normal after 5 days of steaming. So we took their blood pressure on day 4 and day 9. I don't know and then they steamed for these 5 days. So I don't know if their blood pressure had come down. We didn't take the blood pressure on these other days, but after 5 days of steaming, their blood pressure had come completely down to normal and healthy. So what is that? That's relaxation. Your blood pressure gets higher when somebody's stressed, right? So that steaming had really showed that it had helped to create a lot more ease and relaxation for the new mothers. And not only that, they reported that it helped them with better sleep. So that makes sense that the steaming had helped. Again, anybody who's steamed, and when you do your steam, you'll see, you sit there and you do notice that it causes a relaxation. And ultimately that relaxation brought, and that soothing feeling, it helped those mothers be less, have a lower blood pressure. So overall, just an incredible application of being able to use steaming in the postpartum. Okay. All right, so the third cause of maternal mortality is called sepsis, okay? And sepsis was responsible for 11% of maternal deaths in this study by the World Health Organization. Okay, so sepsis is a word basically for infection. So what happens is, if somebody has an infection, and the infection gets really, really, really bad, it can enter the bloodstream, and that's called sepsis. And that can be fatal. That can be deadly. Okay. So postpartum sepsis, women are at risk of sepsis of this because they're at risk of getting infection from tears and wounds that occurred during childbirth. And then also that urinary tract infections and different things like this. So all of these tears and these wounds and these infections, again, if they are not, treated or kept clean, or, if they're in an internal area where the person can't even reach it, it could be deadly. So it's really important to pay attention to fevers and any infections, and to see if there's any red or, anything like that, around any wounds or tears. And then the other thing is, a lot of times people have stitches as well, sutures. And so in our trial, everybody sadly ended up with tears. Everybody, I think, except for maybe one person had a small tear, and didn't end up with sutures. But every single person in the study ended up with tears. So our STEAM group and our non-STEAM group, and almost all of them had sutures. So we were monitoring their sutures and their signs of healing with their sutures. And we were looking at difficulty urinating. We were looking at burning sensation, itching. We were looking at difficulty walking, or being able to walk naturally, or any pain while walking, or using the bathroom. And so everybody on day 5, when we surveyed them, everybody had those issues. And in fact, the medical examiner also looked at the sutures. They did a vaginal exam as well. So everybody had issues on day 4 postpartum, which is normal. We know during postpartum, anybody who's experienced that, if you've got sutures, if you've got tears, it's uncomfortable on day 4. So our STEAM group, after 5 days of steaming, all of their symptoms had gone away. They were all using the bathroom normally. They were all urinating normally. None of them had burning sensations, itching, pulling, or any pain with walking. Our non-STEAM group all still had pain on day 9. And again, anybody who's had the stitches, tears, that on day 9, you're not necessarily healed up from all of that. If you steam, you are. Our STEAM group was able to get rid of all of their discomfort after 5 days of steaming, which was incredible. Sadly, our non-STEAM group, even at 6 weeks, I think over half of them were still dealing with some discomfort related to their stitches and their tears and their wounds. So it had a huge difference, at least when we looked at the sutures and the wound healing from the sutures for our STEAM group. Now, what does that mean when it comes to the mortality maternal mortality. It means that our steam group was way better off than our non-steam group because their wounds had healed, and their wounds healed really quickly once they started using steaming. I tell you guys, I really believe steaming. I really truly believe steaming, and if we have this tool and if this is something that we do, can just help to, like, I don't know, some bigger things need to happen. You know, racism in the medical system needs to get addressed. But ultimately, I don't even know if that's gonna happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm gonna have a chance, like during my childbearing years, for that to be completely resolved.
Yeah.
But I am gonna steam. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna steam. I want everybody that I know to be steaming after they give birth, because it is hitting all of these risks one by one. It just knocks them down. All right, Joy, talk to me. What are we talking about?
All right. So we do have a couple comments, but we do have one question.
Okay.
They're asking, is it okay for men to steam?
Yes, men can steam.
Okay.
So steaming can be used for men for prostate cancer, colon cancer, hemorrhoids. Um, Sometimes men have cysts. I didn't know about this, but they can get like penile cysts or like scrotum cysts. Steaming knocks those out. I've seen it with one of my, again, like when you know how to steam. So one of the certified steam practitioners, they all do this for their partners. You know, they all do this for the men in their lives, for their dads, for their brothers. And so that's when I've started to learn about it. I think especially like within the Black community, like some men are out here steaming and they like it. They like it. It's cute, you know. But in Korea, steaming is commonplace for men, and that's when I first started to like, that's when I first started to hear about it, because one of my friends and colleagues is Korean, and she does steaming through her Korean tradition. She learned it from her grandmother. But in traditional like Asian medicine, it's something that both men and women do for any reproductive issues, including also the men's steam for fertility. So if there's any infertility issues, the men's steam for that. They steam also for erectile dysfunction. So 50s and up is usually when the men start steaming. And they also steam for, I could not believe this, you guys, and you guys will see this in the documentary because I got it on film. Men steam at the gym. Like, okay, yes, we know gyms have saunas here in the US too, but they're doing it for weight loss. Men over there, they do sitting steams. They do, you know, you can't call it vaginal steaming when men do it. Sorry. Men do pelvic steaming, sitting steaming before they even work out in order to prevent, I was told that they were doing it in order to prevent risk of injury. So it's a thing. It's totally a thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, in the comment section, they're saying one that this was very informational, and they're so excited that this was such an informative live. And then, of course, that kind of helps us segue into, letting you guys know we're going to be doing a workshop as well. We'll give you more information at the end, but I just wanted to let you guys know that you'll have the opportunity to get more of this information. So please stick around, and then we'll make sure that you guys get the information so you can register for the workshop.
Yeah, okay, for sure.
Yep, that was our last question so far, but I'll pop back on here if we get another question.
Okay, sounds good. I love when you come on. Just anytime. Jump in. All right. So okay, so the number 4 cause, we have 3 more. The number 4th cause of maternal mortality is complications during delivery. And especially as you know, within the birthing community, doulas, and those of us who have given birth ourselves, I know that you all understand that complications can come up during birth. That's why we exist. That's why the whole birth working industry, that's why we have birth workers. That's why it exists. Okay. So complications during delivery were responsible for 10% of all deaths worldwide. So that would have been about 30,000 of the deaths. Okay. So what I would like to share is how steaming is used during delivery. So I personally used steaming when I was overdue. So that was the first time that I did not know that steaming could be used for labor. It was something that I was just desperate to get into labor and not need to have like a medical birth, not to have like interventions. And so I steamed. And so that was from my history, that's the first time I knew about steaming during labor. Then I was able to help a lot of other people steam during labor. And now to date, I've seen hundreds and thousands of people steam during labor, and I train on how to do this. And this is something that you can hop into my institute and do right away. Vaginal steaming for labor preparation is the name of that class. And so for birth workers, I really love the combination of doing the level 1 certification and then vaginal steaming for labor preparation. Okay. So that, let's see, Joy, you got something to say about this?
Yeah. So, well, just real quick, we do have another question, and it's kind of perfect timing that you were talking about the institute. Let me actually scroll up because I kind of lost the question. So they are asking, well, they're saying that they offer V-stimming to their clients and they would love to get certified. They said, upon completion, will we get a logo or some sort of certification that we can put on our website?
Yeah, yeah. You're Steamy Chick certified, and you get onto the directory as well. So, so I have a directory. I've certified 1,215 people so far worldwide. We got people in almost every state, and so I put up a directory so that people can find the STEAM practitioners. Yeah. Okay. So you go up there. Okay, so going back to complications during labor. So I myself steamed because I was overdue. I was able to, once I steamed, I was able to, like, that same day, ultimately, I went into labor and I had my baby 12 hours later. So there were just no stops, and it was a home birth. So great success. Since then, people have actually started using steaming during labor as well. So I used steaming during labor with a client when her labor had stalled. So somebody had been in labor, her midwife was there, and then she just stopped having contractions. And there's a time limit between when somebody stops having contractions between when they're going to need to go to the hospital. And so the midwife called me, and I went over with my steaming supplies, and I steamed her. She fell asleep and woke up to being almost fully dilated and really strong contractions, and had her baby at home, like within an hour or two. I want to say she slept for about an hour and then woke up, was dilated, and was able to deliver her baby. So that was the first time that I experienced that. Now, fast forward, ever since I started offering the class Vaginal Steaming for labor preparation, once I had worked with enough people and developed like the protocols for steaming during labor. And there was a doula in the Czech Republic who started using it in births there. And the midwives in the Czech Republic work in the hospital. So when the midwives had seen the steaming and how well it worked for home births, they actually took it to the hospital and they got it approved by the head OBGYN of this one hospital in particular. And so they started offering it. And what they found was there's patients who steamed during labor. Their labors went from however long labors last to 6 hours or less. So the reason why they offer it, and now like across the board offer it, in the Czech Republic, in the hospitals, is because it's decreased the labor time to 6 hours or under. And so that is what I had seen. I had seen that steaming, was decreasing, the labor time and decreasing the complications. It helps it to progress very quickly. Well, now they have found that in the hospitals as well. And so there are over 30 hospitals in the Czech Republic that offer steaming in the labor and delivery department. And it's the nurse midwives in the labor and delivery department that offer the steaming. And they just offer it across the board. When people come through the door, oh, hey, do you want to do a steam? Some of them are in early labor or even not even in labor yet. They had the false labor. And all of them are having labor within, or having their delivery within 6 hours of the steaming. It's incredible. Not only that, they're not getting transferred to cesarean. They notice that the cervix is ripening very quickly, dilating very quickly. So they're not having complications when steaming is offered in labor. And this is why it's so important for doulas to know about this, because there's no chance that there's no way that the hospitals in the US are going to start offering steaming during labor. But guess what? They have started letting doulas in. Not all the way, but we are able to get in the room now sometimes. And if you've got steam supplies with you in that labor and delivery room, it can be the difference between somebody actually progressing and not progressing. It could be the difference of them needing to get Pitocin. One of the hospitals that I visited, I got to go to the Czech Republic and visit these hospitals and interview some of the doctors and nurse midwives. Incredible, especially because this all came from my class, vaginal steaming for labor preparation. And it was just really, really beautiful to see it fruit like this. Like, the potential of this is so amazing, and yet it's really being underutilized. But us Black women, we can use this. We know how to. We can get it in there. And even if you're going to do a hospital birth and you can't, for whatever reason, have the steam supplies there, do it before you even go to the hospital. The last thing you do before you go out the door is steam, because steaming makes such a big difference. And then, so the last thing, yeah, and then at all home births. And I'm going to show you guys actually a really quick setup. I'm traveling right now, so I'm like at a, I don't have like my steam gear with me, but I'm going to show you guys how quick and how easy you can create a steam setup. So I'm going to grab mine right now.
Okay, great. All right, guys, feel free to put any more questions that you have in the chat. If we haven't got to your question yet, no worries. We'll get to it in just a minute here.
Okay, so this is my steam setup while away. Okay, I went at the store. I saw this huge bowl, so I was like, "Yeah, I like stainless steel. Don't mess with plastic and steaming, you guys. We don't want plastic." And then I bought this toilet seat at the hardware store, and I removed the lid so that it's not wonky. This, and again, in my kitchen, I've got a kettle. So you just pour water into here and you're steaming. This is how quick and how easy it could be. And so I know for you doulas, you guys have like a go bag, this could easily fit into a duffel bag to be able to take into a hospital. And hospitals have hot water kettles. They have hot water. So you can get hot water, put it in there. Even without herbs, somebody can steam, just with something like that. So anyway, so getting it into hospitals and reducing complications of delivery is so important. Another one of the hospitals that steams in the Czech Republic, they noticed that their episiotomy rate went down. So they're doing episiotomies. And the head OBGYN was trying to get the episiotomies down because they realized that it's problematic. And then he wasn't able to get it down to none. But once they started steaming, he was able to get it down to like 15%. And then once the nurse midwife started offering steaming, their episiotomy rate dropped to 5%. And I think the 5% of people there still getting episiotomies didn't do the steaming, So it's incredible. And what's really cool is everybody says yes. I was like, so does everybody know about steaming? They were like, no. Like, this is new to us, but it's just something that they offer people when they come into labor. And people are like, yeah, they said, oh, we have this herbal steam treatment, do you want to do this while you wait? And everybody says yes. All their patients say yes. And so almost all of them steam. The people who don't steam, they come in a little bit later, and maybe there's not enough time and so forth. So there are still people that don't steam, but it's really incredible that it's offered to, as long as there's time, that it's offered to everybody. So I can share some more stories. I guess I'll share. No, I want to end the talk so that we have enough time for Q&A. Okay. You got a question for me right now?
Yes, I do. So someone asks, how similar is bathing in herbs to steaming?
It's not the same. So bathing in herbs is great. Do it. Absolutely, 100%. Steaming ascends the vaginal canal and touches the cervix directly. Bathing does not. Steam rises. Steam is water. These are both water. Okay, so hot water creates heat there. It's like heat therapy. It increases the circulation. It's beneficial for all kinds of things. But steaming is water in a different form. It's in a gaseous form, and it's got lifting power. Okay, so steam is used, I mean, to power engines, right? The steam engine. Steam can make a ship go all around the world. You know, it can make a train go across the continent. It's different than water. Okay, so there's hydroelectricity too. Water itself, you have to move the water, then it can create that movement and that energy. Steam itself is already moving. It's got its own lifting power. It's got its own circulation. It permeates deeper, right? Like when somebody, even in cleaning, you know, you clean something with water. If it can't get clean, you steam it, right? It's further. Okay, so Joy, I've got two more causes of maternal mortality that I'm gonna say, and then I'll end at 50 so that I'll just try to get these two done so that we can get to the Q&A.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. Okay, so the fifth cause of maternal mortality is pregnancy loss. So people are dying after miscarriages and after abortions for the same reasons, for these same complications. Okay, and sadly, people don't receive a lot of support after miscarriage and abortion. And so the same thing is necessary. They need to have a full uterine cleanse. And if they don't have a full uterine cleanse, they can hemorrhage. They need to relax, right? They need to make sure that their blood pressure isn't going up and that they're not so stressed that they're, end up with heart failure. They need to make sure that there's no infections, So all of the same things that cause maternal mortality cause risk during miscarriage. And so steaming being used to help with miscarriage recovery is so important as well. And I think this is something that as birth workers, I think this is something that you all are in the position to support people with, right? So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So that was responsible for 8% of all deaths worldwide. So that was like a significant amount still. Probably about 25,000 people died as a complication of pregnancy loss. So really significant for us to be able to get steaming for their recovery, for people's recovery. Okay, and then the last cause of maternal mortality was embolism. So embolism is basically when somebody's circulation is really bad and their arteries get blocked, and their arteries get blocked so much that the blood flow to the heart stops, and they die as a result of that. So blood clots can cause artery blockage and embolism. Okay, so I think it's really interesting because steaming, like even when you use steaming just for your period, you see that if you steam before your period, you see all these clots come out after. That's good. That means that you cleared out all of these blood clots that were in your uterus, and that also could have been, in your circulatory system. So steaming, we know steaming increases circulation. We know that it moves blood. Sometimes people who have, I remember this one woman had a work injury. Her elbow was injured, and she had been doing physical therapy for a year. She was on pain meds. She couldn't sleep throughout the night. She would wake up in pain. She would have to take her pain meds in order to fall back asleep. She'd been dealing with this for a year. She steamed and she slept through the night and didn't need to wake up and take any pain meds. And she told me, and I was just like, that's interesting. It's because steaming, anything that you do to increase your circulation, in your abdomen, increases your circulation throughout your whole body because it's the middle of your body. And so that's why it was even able to help her with that elbow injury, because ultimately the blood circulation improved. And so her pain level went down. And so she was able to sleep throughout the night. So the other one is people have swollen feet. And then there's when they steam, they say that their swelling and their swelling feet go down. People have said they have knee injuries. So steaming just in general helps with blood flow, which helps to decrease pain in even in other parts of the body. And so so again, it's well known that heat therapy helps to improve circulation. And so steaming, of course, helps to improve circulation and helps to clear out those blood clots that are in the uterus. But when it comes to embolism and risk of mortality, it's really important to get the blood flow moving throughout the entire body. And this is something that actually a warm bath would help with as well. But the steaming, again, it's well known to be able to help to improve circulation, not just in the reproductive organs, but throughout the entire body. So again, if we got people steaming postpartum, then you are reducing their risk of blockages, of blood clots and blockages. Okay, embolism it's called, and embolism was responsible for 3% of all deaths. Okay, so that's the talk. I'm open to your guys' Q&A. I do think that all doulas and birth workers should know how to steam. I do believe that steam safety is important. People come to me all the time. They're like, I steamed at the spa and I got a really bad infection. I have herpes that I haven't had an outbreak in 10 years. My period started and I can't get it to stop. It's been 30 days. Like, I mean, I hear I hear these because they come to me after. But the thing is, there's only a few things that you got to know. And then being able to have an intake form and screen is really important. I used to give people would say, oh, I have this problem. How, what herbs should I use? And I would tell people online. And then I started realizing that was irresponsible. I had given somebody, told them what herbs to steam with, and she was pregnant. She didn't know that steaming was contraindicated during pregnancy. I didn't know she was pregnant. Came to find out she didn't know she was pregnant either at the time. But either way, like, just steaming like as if it can work in every situation, it's just not true. And I think that when we steam without proper knowledge of it, I think that we are now at risk of laws being passed to illegalize steaming. We don't want anybody getting hurt. I definitely know that there is a lawsuit in California right now against a spa for somebody steamed and got burnt during their steam session. There's really funny little things that you have to have your setup, practice with your setup, make sure that you know what you're doing. I don't know why, but like there's a YouTube video of somebody like in a big pot putting herbs, and she's really helpful and tells people, oh, you can use this herb and that herb. And then she sits right on the pot. And I don't know how she did it in the video, but people are doing that and burning themselves all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like by sitting directly on a big old hot pot. Like it's really important that we take safety into consideration. And I don't steam anybody or give anybody like steaming plans or anything unless I've done an intake form with them and I've done my checks and balances. If they have herpes, they can only steam for 10 minutes. And I'm not going to just put somebody down and have them steam for 30 minutes and they get a herpes outbreak and they're blaming the steaming for it. We need to be able to use it because it is so incredible. We should be using it responsibly and safely. The certification is not very expensive. It's cheaper than your guys' doula certifications, much cheaper. And it's something that you guys can add in, especially in the Black community. I make sure to keep it inexpensive and message me. If you've got any problems, message me. I've got payment plans on there so you can just pay $30 and get the first module and just go little $30 at a time so that you can get certified. And just message me if you need any options. I just think this is something that we need to have. Like I'm giving this talk for free. I'm giving the workshop for free because I want this knowledge. We know about steaming. Most all Black women know about steaming. I want us to know about how steaming can be used to decrease the maternal mortality crisis that we are facing. Because again, just having a quick little setup of a stainless steel bowl, and a seat on top, and knowing that you've got some hot water could mean the difference between a pregnancy complication or not. Whether somebody hemorrhages afterwards because there was retained placenta or not. Like, come on, we need to be doing it.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Keli. So we do have 2 more questions, I believe. One question is asking, if the water breaks, is steaming something you should do?
You can still steam after the water breaks. It makes no difference if you steam before the water breaks or after the water breaks.
Perfect. Now, let's see. We got one.
Oh, and about that too, steam people have been using steaming when they have GBS, if they get a group B strep positive. So there's one midwife in particular. Anytime she has a client that is GBS positive, she's been steaming them and then also ordering the test. And none of the people have GBS after steaming. So they're able to avoid taking the antibiotics. There's a lot of really cool applications for birth. And so we go over those in vaginal steaming during for labor preparation in that class. It can be used for preeclampsia. It can be used if there's gestational diabetes. The one contraindication, again, steaming always has contraindications because it's a real thing. It really has an impact on the body. It cannot be used or change a situation where there's placenta previa. That is a danger to steam. So it's a contraindication. So anyways, I just really encourage everybody to learn these before you try to go in and apply it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. We have one more question. They just are asking if you can repeat the percentage of all 6 reasons.
Okay, yes. Thank you. Okay. So the first cause of maternal mortality is hemorrhaging. And it's responsible for 27% of all deaths. Hemorrhaging is really heavy bleeding. The second cause of maternal mortality was heart stroke caused by eclampsia, which is also related to preeclampsia, which is really high blood pressure. This was responsible for 14% of all deaths. Okay. The cause of maternal mortality number 3 was sepsis, or a really bad infection that gets into the bloodstream. This is responsible for 11% of all deaths. The fourth cause of maternal mortality was complications during delivery, which was responsible for 10% of all deaths. The fifth cause of maternal mortality was pregnancy loss and all the things related to pregnancy loss. This was responsible for 8% of all deaths. And then the last cause of maternal mortality was embolism, which is blocked arteries due to blood clots. This was responsible for 3% of all deaths. And the name of the study that I got these from is called The Global Causes of Maternal Death, a World Health Organization systematic analysis. And the total deaths overall that they counted in 1 year was 287,000 deaths. That's a hell of a lot of people, you guys. There's over 250,000 people dying. And those are the causes. Steaming helps every single one of those things. So just knowing how to steam, you're already possibly preventing risk of mortality. So I gave you guys a 50% off coupon, doula. So if you check out with the vaginal steaming for labor preparation or any of my certifications, in the cart, there'll be a place to enter a coupon. So enter doula, all caps locks, in there for 50% off. If that's still not affordable, go to the scholarships. If you go down to the footer of my website, there's a place to apply for scholarships. So go ahead and apply for that there. And then you'll have, yeah.
We're going to make sure we put the website in the chat one more time so you guys can go over and use your discounts. We do have one more question. This is regarding talking. So basically, it was just a response to what you were talking about with the herpes breakout. And they're just asking, can steaming cause breakouts for other STDs?
The negative side effects of steaming, I don't know why I'm laughing. They can be random, one person was like, they steamed and they had steamed for 45 minutes. They contacted me and they were just like, my feet are throbbing. And I was like, okay. They were like throbbing. They were like, I can't sleep. I had to take painkillers because my feet won't stop throbbing like this. And I was just like, whoa, there can be interesting side effects. The ones that I'm really concerned about is the herpes outbreak and the onset of bleeding. You have to know somebody's menstrual cycle type. So people who have menstrual cycles that are 27 days or shorter, they tend to be they tend to have maybe some spotting and ovulation as well. They tend to have like those periods where they spot for several days after. They tend to have periods where they spot for several days before they start their period. So it's something that I call uterine fatigue, and they have a uterine bleeding sensitivity. Now, I'm not saying anything's wrong with that cycle length. I'm just saying if you look at people in this category, if you steam them too long, too hot, or with the wrong herbs, they can start bleeding right away after steaming. And that's the one that I think that is the most important, that we just that's not happening. And so it's really easy to just screen somebody and make sure if they have a uterine bleeding sensitivity that they steam with herbs that stop any chance of bringing on the early onset of their period. So that's the one that I really look at. As far as other STDs, steaming helps HPV. Okay, sorry. Everything that I'm saying, please, nobody sue me, okay? There are almost no studies about steaming. The only study that was done in the US so far, I crowdfunded in order to get the money to hire the medical examiner and the researcher and the writer in order to be able to do this study, okay? So there's no medical proof of this. There are a lot of case studies. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence, which means a midwife steamed 3 of her patients who had GBS and then did a test, and none of those patients had GBS later. That's all called anecdotal evidence or just case studies, okay? So that's what I'm talking about. But that said, there are case studies of steaming going away, getting rid of HPV, GBS, chlamydia. Steaming seems to help all of these STDs. But anytime somebody who has so people who have STDs are also usually have BV and yeast infections even before, prone to that kind of thing. If anybody who is prone to infections and viruses steams for too long, yeah, it can cause a problem. You can steam too long and cause a yeast infection. Yeah, you can. You can steam too long, or you can steam with herbs that somebody's allergic to and they end up with a rash and outbreaks. All of this can happen, you guys. So it's when you think through it, it all makes sense. But that's why having that quick little intake to just remember, oh, wait a minute, let me make sure they're not allergic to any of these herbs. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me see if they're prone to yeast infections. Okay, let's only steam them for this long, right? Doing this just makes it so that it happens very responsibly and very safe. And people only receive all the positive benefits of it. There's not a lot of negative benefits, but there are negative benefits, and they most often happen, negative side effects. They most often happen when people are steaming without thinking through it, or without proper training.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I believe that's all the questions we have for this evening. We really appreciate you taking the time to give our members and our community this free information. If you guys want to sign up for our workshop, it'll be on August the 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This will be a little bit more intimate. It won't be via live, it'll be via Zoom. So you'll be able to ask Miss Keli all your questions face to face. Feel free to sign up. We're going to put the Eventbrite link in the comment section. Again, please go to the Steamy Chick website to make sure you put in your discount doula for 50% off. And then, of course, we'll go ahead and put Miss Keli's Instagram in the chat as well, so you guys can reach out to her.
Yeah, I'm at Steamy Chick. And then just a final, sorry, is it okay if I say a final note?
Of course.
Final note is, doulas, you do some things and then other things you don't do. Like some people do placenta encapsulation, other people, that's not their thing. That's not, something that they do. And so they are able to refer. If you are trained in steaming, I think that's wonderful. If you're not certified and trained in steaming, find a steam practitioner around you. There are so many people who have already gotten certified in this. They already have a setup. They've got nice saunas, they've had them upholstered so they're comfortable to sit on. Make sure that you always find the STEAM practitioner in your community even before you get certified, so that you can refer to them. Steaming can be used in birth situations. I forgot I was going to give you guys this list for labor preparation starting at 36 weeks, GBS, stalled labor, active labor, long labor, preeclampsia, placenta not releasing after labor, partially retained placenta, bladder can't empty, lochia infection, uterine prolapse, postpartum uterine cleanse, suture discomfort, perineum tears, postpartum contractions, UTIs, extended lochia, early menstrual return postpartum, late menstrual return postpartum, pregnancy loss recovery, Plan B pregnancy prevention. STEAM practitioners certified by me are already trained in all of these things. So just go to the directory and know the STEAM practitioners around you. And if they've got a spa, and if they've got services, or if they do, events, go to those events, go with your friends, take your mother, take your sisters, you know what I mean? Like take your cousins, take your little cousins who are just starting their periods. It could be used, when people just start. So just, go ahead and know the STEAM practitioners and make sure to invite them and have them in the birthing community, and know that there's somebody that you can refer to. And I'm just, or bring in or call, like how that midwife called me and I was able to go in there. And basically, who knows how it would have gone, but if her contractions would have started, she would have ended up at the hospital, and could have with an emergency cesarean. I was, just being able to know who the STEAM practitioners in your community are and call them in, rather than you don't have to pretend, or try to put together something that you don't know. Go ahead and use the certified practitioners that are around you. So you can find that at Steamy Chick as well, the directory of certified STEAM practitioners.
All right. Thank you, guys. We're going to end this live. You all have a good one. Bye bye.